Hey everyone, I'm back. This isn't going to be an interesting episode because I actually had something else planned to talk about, and then all of a sudden something else came to mind, something came up with some clients. And the idea for this episode came to be, and I was like, should I do this? Because I had originally planned to do something else, and I don't have anything scripted or planned out for this one. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. No plan. I mean, not like I really ever have scripts, but usually I have at least a plan. So for this one, there's no plan going into this. Seems to be typical of me to do something like that. Um, but this time we're going to talk very briefly, hopefully. I always say that. We're going to talk really briefly about when you have a really shitty day. Because a client just came up to me today, day of recording, um, basically talking about how just everything felt like it was falling apart that day. Like the Wi-Fi was going out where she was, so there was no Wi-Fi. She couldn't get the things she wanted done. Someone didn't show up to something that needed to show up to finish this project, which means she was running behind on this project that has a deadline. And then like something was going on with their dog or something, and personal life stuff was going on. It all just felt like it was culminating in a day. And like, if you can relate to days like, we can all relate to days like that, right? Like I've had days like that where that feels like one thing after another is just piling on top of each other. And you're just like, what did I do to piss some god off? like, like which god did I piss off? Because apparently I did it to one of them. It feels like that, right? Um, and I will say that half the time the pile up that happens is because we're already in a shitty mood. And so naturally we notice more things going wrong and, obviously energies and all that. But really naturally we notice more and more things going wrong that were perhaps already kind of going wrong, but because we're in a bad mindset, it seems even worse. So we get super, super stressed and tense. And because of that, everything else seems to snowball and yeah, shitty day. That's the shitty day in a nutshell, right? Am I right? If you can relate to that, definitely DM me, put in the comments below, wherever you're watching this. I don't know. I'm still getting used to this. I'm recording a podcast and a YouTube video at the same time, so bear with me. Um, but the reason I wanted to talk about this, and I know we started off on kind of a weirdly negative note, and I do that sometimes. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because these days happen. It doesn't matter how good your mindset is. It doesn't matter how much you work on being positive um, or just being in a good, or learning how to manage things like anxiety and stress and stuff when it comes up. No matter how much you work on that, these days come up anyway, right? There's going to be shitty days. There's really nothing you can do about that. You can't control that. And I say you can't control that, which is a really, really important thing for everyone here listening to understand. Because one of the reasons why a lot of times those sorts of days really get to us is because of that lack of control. I mean, think about it. Think back to the last time when you had a really, really shitty day. And think back to the reason why it was particularly shitty. And half the time, the reason why it's particularly shitty isn't just because of the things happening, but the fact that you have no control over the shit happening. The snowball effect, you couldn't control. The fact that whatever shitty thing happened, you couldn't control that. And a lot of us feel like we should be able to control some of this stuff. We feel like there should be some semblance of control. And it's unfortunate that, there are certain things in society that, like, they obviously put all the blame and responsibility on us. Um, you have to figure that out. If you didn't figure it out, then you should have. Which again, I'm all for taking responsibility. But it does put a lot of pressure on us, doesn't it? It certainly does feel like it's a lot of pressure to like always be ready for everything. Um, when there are just certain things you literally cannot control and you cannot plan for everything. And that can be really frustrating. It can really frustrate, especially to any control freaks out there. So if you're a control freak, this is probably especially applicable to you. Shitty days can happen to people who aren't control freaks too. It's just that people who are able to release control more can generally get over the shitty day a little bit quicker. Or like have a better way to manage it because you're not trying to control the shit. Like, I'm gonna give a really horrible metaphor and let me hope it works. But God, this is horrible. I'm gonna do it anyway. Imagine that you have horrible diarrhea. You cannot control it. You can't control the shit. It is a literally shitty day. I don't know why I'm laughing at myself so much. I'm laughing at my own metaphor. Um, but yeah, when you have diarrhea, you can't control it. And it feels like shit because you can't control it, right? You're usually able to control it. This time you can't. You can't control the shit. It sucks. Um, but how do you get over something like that? Yeah, there's like medications and stuff that you could take. But half the time it's also letting it pass. So there's medications, there's things you can do to actually like mitigate things. Um, and then the other piece of it is, things like simple things that you're supposed to do, like hydration, like, getting rest. Um, and then there's you have to wait, you have to give it time. And when it comes to our really, really crappy, shitty days that we have, it's the same general concept. There are going to be things that you're going to be able to apply and do. So things like talking it out with coaches. That's like your medication, right? Imagine that that's what that is. Like talking it out with coaches. You're talking it out with friends, maybe. You're doing some journaling and reflection. Um, and then obviously the next step in that is like, okay, so hydration and rest, right? Like that's like the typical things you would do and the stuff comes up. In that case, my view on that, like if you translate that into the shitty day situation, is being able to like, okay, take a step back and reflect on what's going on, reflect on worst case scenario, and take a little break. Because when all of the stuff starts to snowball, it even though it seems like that moment, like the best thing to do is to keep doing because you feel like it's the time you're like, I need to do this. I need to fix this right now. You can't do that because it just gets worse. You have to take a little break. It doesn't have to be the longest break, but take a little step back and give yourself some time to breathe and we can all attest to this. Like you can look back into your past and notice this too. It always feels better to address this stuff when you're feeling good, when you're not like super, super high strung and anxious, which is why you take a step back so you can get back at least a little bit into that mode. And that way you can look at these things with a slightly better mind and actually address them properly instead of doing it rushed or doing it while super stressed, which means you're probably more likely to make a mistake and make a bad decision or impulsive decision, stuff like that. And then there's the waited out bit, which is going to be the case for really any shitty day. Sometimes you just have to let the day pass. There are definitely times I've had really crappy days. Like it just feels like one thing after another. I missed a coaching call for some reason because I was an idiot who wasn't organized. Yeah, I missed a coaching call maybe, or like, someone I thought was going to be my client all of a sudden decided to say no. I feel horrible. Something bad happens in my personal, it always feels like it's snowballing, right? Always does. And usually those days I just consider them a wash. I'm just like, you know what? It is a shitty day. I am going to admit and say it, say it. It is a shitty day, and I I can't stress it enough that sometimes doing that is actually the best thing you can do for yourself. Like just allowing yourself almost to give in to whatever the universe is doing there. Because I'm just like, you know what? Go ahead. Like I can't control you, so go on, have fun. I'll see you tomorrow where I hopefully feel slightly better. And that stuff is going to happen. And I know there's always going to be someone or even yourself telling you, but there's got to be something I can do about this right now. It's like, well, yeah, there's something you can do about it, but maybe not right now. And right now might not be the best time. And giving yourself time to really properly think and reflect and even just like, let me clear my head for a little bit and come back to this later. That's beneficial to almost anything you can do. Patience, young grasshopper, patience. So I cannot stress that enough. I know there's a lot of people that preach like positivity and stuff like that. I love being positive. I'm a very positive person, right? Um, but I don't like being positive for the sake of being positive. And I don't think like just because you have a shitty day, you need to like, okay, well now I need to like, be super positive and preach positivity and like get myself in a positive mindset. No, allow yourself to be in a negative mindset if you want to. Or even if you don't want to. Like we always talk about getting uncomfortable, right? And and if you find that, you know, sitting sometimes in the negativity can feel a little bit uncomfortable, but maybe you need it. Negativity is a part of life. right? Sometimes you have to kind of sit with those really terrible feelings and things that are going on and just let it be. And I know that doesn't sound fantastic. And I'm speaking from experience that I personally hate doing that. I'm an Enneagram type 7. I avoid pain at all costs. If you ever know an Enneagram, you would concur with my my what I said about myself. So if you are kind of in that boat where like maybe you're always like trying to find the positive side of things, which is great and awesome, and I do it too. And I love positivity, and I like being an optimistic person because I am. Um, but I find that I am more able to actually be optimistic and positive and not be forcing it if I allow myself to let the negativity happen, let the bad things happen, let the shitty day happen. Like, let it be a wash. It's okay. It's fine. It makes good content, right? That's the way I see it. It makes great content. I'm like, you know what? This is going to be a great part of the book I write in a few years. Just let it happen, and then I can come back at it again. I can come back at it the next day. If the next day is still feeling shitty, you know what? It's another wash. Usually for me, by the time it gets to like day 3 is when I'm like, okay, now if I wasn't doing something before, I'm like, okay, well, now it's time to actually do something. But usually, for me at least, within a day or two, I'm able to kind of be able to kind of come at it with at least a slightly different angle, even if I'm not feeling perfect. This obviously is not the case for everyone. Obviously, there are things like mental illness that play. Like, I will always have anxiety. Anxiety is a thing that is in my life. like, and that might be the case for you. Maybe there's something else in your life that causes like, you to react in certain ways or just comes up out of nowhere, and we can't control it sometimes. But there are things you can do, and some of the things you can do. And the other thing you can do is allow days to be shitty. If it is a shitty day, you can allow it to be shitty. And that's okay. Like, the sooner you can accept that, the sooner you're going to be able to move on past it. That's the way I see it. Because if you're so stuck on trying to fix the shitty day, you're going to be stuck in that shitty day for as long as that lasts, which could be a very long time. And then you're just going to be continuing to make every day shitty because you're so focused on that. Whereas if you can just allow a day to be shitty, you can focus forward instead and think, okay, well, tomorrow, there's always possibly tomorrow. Let's think about what I could do tomorrow and only think about that and just let that day be a wash and then relax. And the next day will come and shitty day's over, whatever. And maybe there is another shitty day ahead. That's okay. That can be another individual shitty day. But again, sooner you can get past it, sooner you can kind of clear your mind and think a little bit more forward towards, okay, well, what happens after this? That's the way I see it. I know not everyone will concur with that, but I did want to talk about the whole shitty day syndrome, because it sucks. It really does. And we all run into it. And you're kind of like, well, what do I always preach like, do this, do that, talk about being positive, talk about confidence, all this other great stuff. But there will come days when it's just like, it seems almost impossible to do that. Um, and that's okay. It's okay to have a shitty day. I don't want to preach toxic positivity to you guys. Um, so I want you guys to know that it is okay to be in those moments and to let those moments happen and to allow it to happen. And then you can go make content out of it if you want. That's what I do. I like making content out of shitty things that happen when I can. But let's be honest, like stuff like failure and negativity actually makes fantastic content because that's a great part of the story. No one wants to tell a story where you're just absolutely perfect. There's a reason they call those characters Mary Sue's, the super perfect characters that like never seem to have a fault and everyone loves them and all that stuff. Yeah, they call them Mary Sue's for a reason. No one likes them. They suck. They're terrible in writing. We like the imperfect characters. We like the storylines where, something happens, something bad happens. Right? So these days that happen are completely normal in your story and will become a part of your story that you'll be able to tell and potentially maybe teach people about, use in your methods, whatever that might be. Ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, they make you a better person, right? And it sucks that they happen. Absolutely. But yeah, definitely just wanted to briefly kind of touch on that subject. And I wanted to urge you guys to allow yourselves to have shitty days. Like, make it an affirmation where it's like you have a shitty day. And like, always say we have our positive affirmations. I have mine. like I am worthy even if I'm not doing. And I have a little story I wrote on my wall that says, once upon a time, there was a girl that said, fuck this shit, and did things her own way. And she lived happily ever after. I like that one. That one's great. Um, but I also have another one. This is one of my favorites. It's don't break the silence, shut the fuck up, which I use as like a reminder to stop talking so much when I'm like asking questions to clients or when I'm on discovery calls and stuff like that. I like that one too. That's really great. You can tell that I do like cursing if you haven't noticed already. Um, but another affirmation you can kind of keep to yourself and use is it's okay to have a shitty day. Today is shitty and that's okay. Like, you're allowed to do that. And as far as I'm concerned, like I'm like, that's kind of positivity, right? Like in my opinion, I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna be have a shitty day. I'm gonna go mope and whine on my bed. I'm gonna watch YouTube videos. I'm going to eat all the chocolate and cookie dough and whatever the heck else I want. And yeah, I'm gonna spend money I don't have. Sometimes that ends up happening too. I wouldn't encourage it, but you know, but yeah, I mean, I think that that's perfectly reasonable and in fact is helpful in helping you kind of move forward from those days instead of focusing so hard on it that you forget to release yourself from the shitty day. So yeah, if that resonates with you and if you really enjoyed that, please let me know in the DMs on Instagram. I am at the Authentic Domi if you didn't know. Or let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, you can always head over to YouTube and leave a comment there too. And there's lots of choices. You guys have choices to reach me. You can email me. Where else can you find me? I'm trying to think. There's probably plenty of other places. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you really, really liked that, I do have a mastermind group where we work really hard on mindset and being a boss, and I hold people accountable, but I also allow people to have bad days. And I let people know that it is okay to have shitty days, but you know, let's let them be shitty and then let's move past them. So, you know, if you need kind of someone there to kind of help snap you out of it, to kind of help validate that it's okay to take that break, I'm your coach. I'm your person. I'm that person. But also push you when need be, because I will do that as well. I will find the time to do that. But yeah, I do have this mastermind. It is fantastic. It is awesome. I always love the girls in it. And I would love to have you in it as well. So if you're interested in joining, obviously shoot me a DM, shoot me an email, comment below, whatever you want to do. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I will be back next week with who knows what other topic. I don't even know at this point. We'll see. Bye.